Welcome to our channel, ladies and gentlemen. If you are watching our channel for the first time, please allow me to request you to take a second or two and subscribe to this channel, then click the notification bell so that YouTube will notify you whenever we do a video like this. You can also share our videos and like them. This is the greatest support that you can render to our channel. To those who support us in one way or the other, I would like to say thank you very much for your continued support. When William Ruto ascended to power, he presented himself as the new Pan-Africanist, and there was a lot of debate, and people were saying that this is the new kid on the block, because Ruto talked about going opposite of what the Western powers have always dictated. He talked about leaving the dollar. He talked about the African Union forming their own currency. And people thought that maybe this is the time that the Pan-Africanists in Africa have gotten another person to help them champion their agenda. One person who really loved the way William Ruto was carrying himself was Julius Malema, because Julius Malema is one person who is anti-Western powers. He doesn't like the UK, America, and all the NATO group. And he praised William Ruto. In fact, he warned RAILA Odinga to accept defeat and allow William Ruto to form a government.
EFF applauds the people of Kenya for engaging in a peaceful election which saw President William Ruto elected as the new president of Kenya. President Ruto must thus form part of the efforts of building an independent continent which is free from war and poverty. This morning, I spoke to President-elect William Ruto and congratulated him for winning the democratic elections in Kenya. We encouraged President Ruto to handle and preside over the transition with maximum care in a manner that must not degenerate into violent confrontations. We call on Mr. RAILA Odinga to accept the election outcome and not form part of a tradition of causing instability and uncertainty on African governance. Mr. Odinga must humble himself and form part of government that will address the challenges confronting the people of Kenya and not allow history to remember him as an individual who was desperate for power at the cost of the progress of his nation.
It did not end there. He also warned RAILA when RAILA went to the street to protest against the high cost of living, to demand for economic and electoral justice.
Comrades, we want to make a call in Kenya, especially to Comrade RAILA Odinga. Stop doing what you are doing. Do not disrupt Kenya. We need peace in Kenya. The President William Ruto was democratically elected in Kenya. I will not allow you to use the people of Kenya to destabilize the peace of Kenya.
Now today, Malema was the chief guest in Makueni, where they were launching the Pan-Africanist Institute. And he made a speech that has gone viral, a speech that criticized William Ruto.
I don't know if President William Ruto means it, because he said so many things and I can't locate him these days, because the things he said during election and the things he's doing now are two different things. I don't know, because I heard him saying we need to do away with the dollar and build our own currency, but his actions are not speaking to anything of doing away with the dollar. The latest being putting a red carpet for a murderer, a person who killed the Kenyan people, coming into this country, receiving a red carpet and being saluted by our own army. This is not a Kenyan army, is not a colonialist army. The Kenyan army is a product of the Mau Mau rebellion, and those who killed our people in the Mau Mau rebellion cannot be saluted by the same army of the children of those who were killed during Mau Mau rebellion. We have a duty to stay true to the cause. We have a duty to remind the king and Britain of what they did to us. Indeed, he shows no remorse. He says this was bad, it shouldn't have happened. But he runs short of, I apologize, I am sorry. He will never say he is sorry, for because he thinks that his race makes him superior and he's not qualified to apologize to those who are junior to him. We call upon the case.
I'm one person who really criticizes Malema for trying to poke his nose into our political affairs, because I thought he did not understand the nitty-gritties of our politics. And his love for William Ruto pushed him to warn Raila Amolo Odinga. Raila Amolo Odinga is a senior politician, not only in Africa, but the whole world. And so I felt that Malema, as a young, upcoming firebrand politician, he needed to respect his elders. But then from his speech, he says that from what William Ruto used to say, maybe he thought that William Ruto was genuine. I want us to look at the red flags, what Malema has witnessed with William Ruto that has made him conclude that maybe William Ruto is dishonest. And I will not take much of your time. Number one, William Ruto has continued his dalliance with the IMF, the International Monetary Fund, and the World Bank, and he has complied, entirely to the demands of the IMF. One of the conditions that Malema and most of the Pan-Africanists really had wanted to put in place is doing away with the IMF, because if you look at all the nations that trade with the IMF, they have been given conditions that most of the times are not very palatable with the citizens. And William Ruto is one of them who decided to remove all the subsidies that were put to help Kenyans. And he has raised taxes on basic commodities. He continues to do that by the day. The one that is very injurious to most of the citizens is the one that he imposed on fuel products that has really made life to be very difficult. The cost of living in Kenya today is very, very high. It is difficult for most citizens to make ends meet. So when Malema saw William Ruto going the way of the World Bank and the IMF, he really realized that William Ruto can never be a Pan-Africanist, because this goes against the spirit and the dictates of a Pan-Africanist. Number two, there is another trade bloc, economic bloc called BRICS, and this was formed by Russia, Brazil, India, and South Africa. And they wanted to have something that would counterbalance the Western dominance and try and look into alternatives of payment apart from the pounds and the dollars. And when William Ruto talked about trying to do away with the dollar, Malema thought that yes, this is the time that they will bring in Kenya to expand this economic bloc, because BRICS was looking at multilateral relationship that surrounded economic, and political association. But William Ruto defied them and decided he was not going to join the BRICS. And Malema knew that this is not the right man, because when you say that you want African unity, you want an alternative to the dollar and the pound, and then you've been presented with the best opportunity to do that, and you don't do it, then he just knew that William Ruto was just talking, but the talks could not be accompanied by actions. Number three, when Russia organized for a Russia-African summit. The president of Kenya refused to attend that summit, neither did he send any representative. And this really alarmed Malema, because this is the man he thought was really serious about an economic bloc that will be an alternative to the economic dominance by the Western machinations. So he did do that. Instead, while other African nations were meeting Putin, Ruto was sending a warning that the president of Russia was meeting those who had committed political coup d'etat in their countries. And most of the African countries realized that all the sweet talks that the president of Kenya has been giving whenever Africans meet were mere empty talks. And so that made him to conclude that William Ruto is not honest. Maybe last, William Ruto has continued to receive Western dignitaries. He has received Bill Gates into the country, and in fact, Bill Gates' company has been given some contract to do with the new identity cards. And you know that William Ruto has also discussed something to do with the GMO with Bill Gates, and that really alarmed most of the Pan-Africanists. He has received also the first lady to the USA, the wife to Joe Biden, and that came with a lot of goodies. And during that moment, William Ruto accepted the demands to do with the LGBTQ, and recently he received King Charles. And that shows you that you can never have the two of them. If you're a Pan-Africanist, you'll be going against the dictates of the West. But William Ruto has continued with their relationship with the West is so much palatable that cannot allow him to go the other way around. And let me just say that Malema also realized that William Ruto accepted GMO, accepted LGBTQ. Recently, we were advocating to somehow accept prostitution in our country. And this was being championed by none other body but the Supreme Court itself. And so with all these, ladies and gentlemen, these are the red flags that I believe Malema looked at, and he concluded that William Ruto is not honest. And he was saying he cannot locate him these days. And so with that, he officially stripped off William Ruto the title of a Pan-Africanist. We now know who the president of Kenya is, and there is no any other debate. He was the only one who maybe was still praising William Ruto, and maybe he thought that they would get another force to help us have an African unity and champion our own cause. But then, it is what it is. I don't know what you think, but that is my take.